Welcome to the First Nations Housing Webinar Series, where we answer questions from community leaders. I'm your host, Jan Eeks. Before we get into it, let me mention the First Nations Housing Conference, February 4, 5, 6. That's next week in Thunder Bay. And occasionally talk face-to-face with people who can help you do what you do. I'll be there for the Builders Challenge again, as usual. Hope you'll be there too. For the webinar today, the presentation will be about a half an hour long. Use the chat to ask questions, and we'll answer them at the end of the presentation. But by using the chat, you won't forget your question. So get it in there, and we'll keep track of it. Now, today's session, we're going to hear about organizing and building partnerships for a carpentry training program, where I was flown into a Pecantrican First Nation in the middle of winter. Jonathan Gregg, Strategic Initiative Director of IFNA, and Erica Daly of the Mohawk College join us. Hello to both of you. Erica, how did you two get together?
Hi, Jan. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good. So we actually started this through some funding that came into the college. And then it was John's brilliant idea to kind of bring some training to the community and see if we could help build some skills and some knowledge around basic carpentry, renovation projects, and that kind of stuff. So that's how the idea started.
Well, Jonathan, welcome.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Jan and Erica. Thank you.
Good to see you. It's been a long time since you've
Yes, it's been a while.
Off the other side of an ice road.
Yes.
Okay, Erica, why don't you take this thing away?
Yeah. All right. Can you see my screen okay?
Got it.
Okay, excellent. All right, so I'm going to kind of run through, a review of how we put the program together, some of our learnings from it, some of our potentially next steps, where we're going with it. So yeah, we'll get started. So just a little bit of a background. Like I already mentioned, we kind of aimed for the project to focus on small renovation projects, especially related to building capacity for, skills, for basic carpentry and renovation projects. The program we wanted to kind of set up was meant to be very accessible to participants. We kind of had originally thought we'd make it like a 5-week session, but we found that a 2-week session was kind of the best for keeping people engaged and also kind of really supporting the participants' learning journey. We did it every day, Monday to Friday, 9 to 3. So it was really just a commit to a 2-week kind of thing. And yeah, it went really well. We focused on hands-on learning experiences with live demonstrations by our instructor, Jan Eeks. And then a lot of time for the students to really practice their skills, both in like a classroom setting and then eventually in community projects that some of the participants brought forward from their own homes. So that was really good. And then one of the biggest things that we also focused on was incentive for the participants to join and to stay for the full 2 weeks. We provided, and I'll get into this a bit later on, but we provided pretty much everything you could possibly need into the community, from tools, safety equipment, any kind of materials for the project. And some of the stuff the participants were able to bring home with them. And that way, they could kind of get themselves started, whether they wanted to go on and do further education or continue on with small projects in their own homes, or even go out and seek jobs. So that was a really big thing. We also provided lunch every day. Again, food brings everyone together. So that was a big one. And then we also gave a $250 honorarium at the completion of the program. And then through Mohawk College, we were able to provide small little certificates to say that they had completed the program, which I think was a real source of pride for a lot of the participants. So that's kind of the background, how we got started, some of the ideas that we had from the beginning. This was all from inception of the program to completion. This was about an 8-month kind of process. Yes, Jonathan? You're on mute. You're on mute.
I guess the other thing too, just for some background for some of the community stuff, with Pikangikum being a remote First Nation, they're also a very large First Nation. They have about 4,500 members, and the last stat we got is about 97% of First Nations of Pikangikum stay in Pikangikum. So one of the things about this program was that we wanted to take the carpentry training to the community members. And a lot of the community members that were participating there, participants, have never really had any kind of training, formal training after high school. And so that was one reason why I just wanted to bring exposure to the community of the different trades and the skills that could be developed in the community. And it was well received. And we even had more participants register, but we only had limited seating. And also, Yannick's could only, he could only have the classroom big enough and with all the tools and everything in there. So it was a good program, and all the hard work, that Erica and Yannick's did. It was excellent, and especially the participants showing up every day, and the enthusiasm that we heard from the participants was amazing. And I think it just has to do with our famous carpentry trainer there too. All right, thanks.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I'm going to break down the program into a couple different pieces to try and really give you some information on how each piece came together. So I'll start with how we found the instructor. Obviously, Yannick's was a no-brainer. He, semi-retired, he was able to move. He's got tons of experience in carpentry, very familiar with hands-on learning, and very willing to kind of create an adaptable and flexible curriculum depending on the learning styles and the needs of the participants. And so those were all really key considerations for when we were finding an instructor. If there's no one available locally, a big part is finding someone that's willing to go and basically live in the community for a short period of time, which I think also really helped in kind of building those relationships with the participants and really just making it a successful program. And again, it is kind of a unique skill set from the instructor side that's required for, facilitating a program like this, because it's not necessarily like a college program. It's way more hands-on, which I think is what is really great about it. So that was our instructor. And then for participant recruitment, we actually focused a lot on kind of how the community communicates themselves. And so that ended up being the Facebook group. That is how we got, 40 plus people interested. And we had put together just a small flyer that we put in a couple community buildings as well. Just about the program, who was the instructor, kind of what could they expect as participants, timeline wise, some basic qualifications, 18 years of age, and that kind of stuff, like really basic. It wasn't meant to create any kind of barriers or anything for any participants. So we just really wanted to kind of get the word out there. And then because we had such an incredible response, we did have a bit of an application process where we asked participants to email in their, like, a short description of why they were interested, just so we could get a sense of, would they commit to the 2-week time, and would they learn something? Would this be valuable for them? And we also asked that they include anything about their carpentry or renovation experience, just again to get a sense of, where are we going to start this curriculum? Do we need to change if people have a bit more experience than we thought? And it wasn't meant to kind of vet anyone out. It just was very much where are we at as a group. And then because the demand was so high, we actually engaged the local, the Pikangikum Education Authority and the board to help us select about 12 to 15 participants per session. Only because Yannick's was one person, and we wanted to make it a really engaging, hands-on experience, and so we wanted to keep those class sizes relatively small. And then any students that weren't in the first one were in the second one, and then the third one, and so on. So that's kind of how we went about participant recruitment. So then getting into the program content, this was probably the trickier part. of, what do you teach, and how do you teach it, and what resources are we able to bring into the remote community. This was hosted during the winter months. We did it was around November, and then again in January, February. So that posed another challenge for getting all of the materials and tools and equipment up there. And so we took a long time to kind of really think out the curriculum and the content and how it would be taught prior to beginning the program. So initially, we at the college, at Mohawk College down in Hamilton, we engaged some of our peers from the skilled trades area of the college to kind of understand what they do in their accelerated programs. And now the basis of their programs are quite different. The setting is quite different. But we use that as a base for what kind of content we could include. And then we provided Yannick's with that information, everything right down to the tool list that's used at the college. And then from there, we kind of left it up to Jan because he has so much experience in carpentry and renovation, and with those kind of more hands-on learning opportunities, especially through the housing conference that's happening next week. And so we left it up to Jan to kind of build that curriculum, plan out how those 2 weeks would look, and we worked together to kind of put together the material list, the tool list, and that kind of thing. Some of the key considerations that were unique to this particular program was space, and everything that comes with a limited amount of space. We had to consider the ventilation. We couldn't have a lot of dust flying around because this was held in Pikangikum's community center in one of their big gymnasiums. So we couldn't have too much dust flying around. Larger tools were a bit difficult, not only logistically to get into the community, but to store and keep in the community center. And again, we also had to take into account the safety protocols for where the participants were kind of starting at in terms of knowledge and skill set level. And then other things were, considering how fast might the participants pick up on skills, and are we going to have to kind of be flexible with timing? Are there things that are nice to have or nice to teach that, if things are going well, we can bring those in at the end? Or are there some basics that need to be kind of really focused in on at the beginning and spend more time on that? So the biggest thing for building the content was very much just this is kind of where we're going to go for the 2 weeks, but we need to be flexible depending on the group of students that come in. And between sessions, even the students could have a very different pace of which they learned, or a very different starting skill set. And so that flexibility, adaptability, and then the relationships that Jan was able to build with the participants was a really, really key factor in the success of the program. So then one more piece on the program content, again, on that kind of curriculum flexibility. Like we said, we wanted it to be very hands-on, get used to all the tools. We will provide everything, but you can only do so much in a small kind of classroom setting. And so towards the end, as Yannick was able to build those relationships with the participants, some of them actually offered some small renovation projects within their own homes, and also within the community. And so on a very cold day, a group of the students went out to fix the front steps of one of the other participants' homes, and you can see all the pictures there. And they brought their tools. And when I had talked to Jan about that experience afterwards and recreating it for other sessions, and how we went about facilitating that, he said it was such a great experience for them because they planned the whole thing from the beginning. It was, what do we need to bring? What tools, what materials? Can we write out a plan of how we're gonna go about this when we're on site for the day? And so it was really just a full project experiential learning opportunity for the participants, and not just this is what we're doing today, but a chance for them to kind of take on the project. And so there was a lot of really good feedback from that. And again, we had hoped for kind of some experiential learning opportunities like that, but because of that flexibility of the program, Jan was able to kind of shift gears towards the end to be like, okay, great, the students are really picking up on these skills, and we can include this community project in the curriculum at the end. And also too, the small cohort of students of about 12. Sometimes the students didn't necessarily stay, one or two kind of didn't stay the whole time. So it was about 10 to 12 in the end. And because it was small, it was easy for them to go out and do these smaller projects. And it was also easy for Jan to spend time with each participant and really support their learning and their learning style within the classroom. So that is program content. So then one of the harder parts of this project in this program was the tools, equipment, and materials. Putting the list together was no problem. And especially once we had that kind of curriculum figured out, we were able to say, okay, what do we want to offer in terms of tools and experiences to the students? That was all great. So some of the stuff that we included were, your basic hand tools like hammers, chisels, measuring tapes. We had tool belts, we had all kinds of stuff, which is pretty basic. And then we also wanted to give them an opportunity to experience power tools, learn the safety around them, and just kind of get familiar with them. And that was obviously helpful as well for when they went out and did the community project. So we narrowed it down to a couple drills. We had some jigsaws, circular saws, reciprocating saws. By the end, we also were able to get a miter saw up into Pikangikum. That was a bit of a logistical challenge, but that was really cool to be able to offer the participants more of a one-on-one training session where Jan said to the students, if anyone wants to come in for a certain time slot, I'll give you like a rundown of how the miter saw works and how to use it. And a couple people took him up on that offer. And again, it's that opportunity to really have that one-on-one time to focus on learning and just becoming familiar with the tools that I think was the most valuable for the participants. And it comes from the instructor being able to spend time in the community and adjust their schedule as well, which Jan did a fantastic job of. So that's kind of the power tools. And then of course, safety equipment, and Jan did a whole bunch of safety lessons at the very beginning. That was a key part of it. We offered steel toe boots, gloves, glasses. We had the high-vis vests, kind of like anything you could really need. And that was part of the engagement with the participants at the beginning, is I coordinated, getting the right boots so that they could keep them, so that they'd have them for whatever they chose to do next, whether it's job, continued education, or anything like that. We really wanted to focus on reducing any kind of barriers as much as possible, so that the participants could really jump in and get something valuable out of this. And so then that was all the tools, equipment. And then for materials, we provided everything from wood, nails, screws, anything you could really need. We actually got a lot of stuff from Red Lake, which is about a 20-minute flight or an hour and a half drive during the winter when the winter road is open. And so that we got it in that way. Or there's a sawmill in Pikangikum where we could use a lot of the spare wood there just for initial projects and just initial practice for the participants, because you don't want to be practicing on the really good wood. So that was really great as well, to kind of use different pieces of the community to facilitate this program. So then the logistics of getting things up there. We had everything shipped to Thunder Bay. We did a lot of organizing on the back end before this program started in the community, again, to reduce those barriers, reduce challenges, and make sure everything kind of went smoothly. So everything was shipped to Thunder Bay. I went up there and the week before and organized everything into bins, just so that we knew that every kind of pair of students would have everything that they could possibly need in kind of a little bin, and then that was theirs to own for the full 2 weeks. And everything went back into the bin at the end of the day. It kept things organized and clean at the end of each day. So we did that, and then myself, Jonathan, and a couple other team members on our end drove from Thunder Bay up to Pekanjicum. It's about a 7-hour drive, I'd say, so that we could make sure that everything got there. We had everything set up for the first day. And then anything that we couldn't drive up, we sent in a charter plane just from Red Lake over to Pekanjicum. And so you can see there's a picture there of us loading up the plane and trying to get everything in. Yeah, that was probably the most stressful part of my job in all of this, is just hoping that everything fit and that we could get everything there, and keeping track of the list of things that I had that needed to get there. But it went really smoothly, and then we were able to drive it all back at the end of the program back to Thunder Bay, so that should this program be ran again or the tools be needed for something, we would have them all ready to go, organized. Yeah. So that's kind of tools, equipment, materials. And then I'll kind of just finish off here with the results of the program and kind of things we've learned. And I'll maybe pass it off to Jonathan to kind of talk about, where things are going next. I'll briefly mention that, and then he can jump in if he has any other thoughts. So in total, we had about 18 Pekanjicum community members go through the program. They now have the basic carpentry and renovation skills to be able to go and pursue jobs, pursue further education, even just to be able to fix up their own homes and projects in their own homes. I know I had said we started with about 40. Some of the community members couldn't stay because of other situations that they had. But those that were engaged were very engaged. And I know Yannick will say that he was able to kind of really build some good relationships with those community members. And I should also mention that they ranged from, late 20s in age to 45. So just a really wide range of participants that were interested in learning new skills and developing some of the skills that they already had. And yeah, so that second point is, like I said, find jobs, pursue further education, do their own projects. And as Jonathan said, a lot of them didn't have access to training opportunities such as this one. And I think that's why the demand was so high, because it's such a valuable opportunity. And then that kind of led to other the IFNA communities being interested in bringing a similar type of training opportunity to their community, potentially not in carpentry, potentially in something else. We talked about including other kind of area trades in the program. It just, this one we really want to focus on carpentry, but there is opportunity. I mean, we've got all the tools, we've got all the materials to expand this into into other communities, and there is the interest there. So all in all, it was a really successful program. Yeah, that's kind of it for us. Jonathan, do you want to jump in and add anything on that?
Yeah, I'll just if we're getting into kind of the end, but for training in the far remote, I think it added maybe around 30 to 40,000 ish, depending on flights and bringing you on in and out. So someone just asked there, just say we use Thunder Bay as a home base, but to get everyone up to that remote thing, we're looking at it was around 30 to 40,000 just for us to get there. And just for instance, well, some of airfare went up and fuel costs went up for airplanes. So just for us to go to the community for the day on a charter was about 15 to 17,000 per trip. So we always tried to minimize and make sure that we brought everything up when we were going up there. So that was very challenging going up there, but it was great. I just want to keep saying that the participants were there, and they keep asking us when is the next course. And one thing though, I'll say though, we and I mean Erica pretty much made this program from scratch. It was with Yannick and putting it all together, but it came together very well. all the team members that were a part of the project. I would say there was about 6 or 7 of us that were part of the planning and getting it there. Now, some of you, if you're wondering like why we didn't work with Thunder Bay College or Confederation College here in Thunder Bay, it was just by coincidence. I have a working relationship with Mariano over the years, and he's from Mohawk College, and we're already working on projects in the communities. And there's this funding opportunity came up, and we applied and we got it. But one thing we are planning to do forward is we've been slowly looking at working with Confederation College and taking a look at what kind of resources that the college can bring to the community or work with us, because it is very challenging. And a lot of the colleges around here, they're set up for people to come to Thunder Bay or people to go to wherever your college is. But in remote communities, it's not always easy for individuals to come out for school, for training. We all have lives, and we all have like one of my old bosses. We all have a spouse, couple kids, and a dog, and we all got to maintain those things and look after them. And sometimes leaving is very hard. And that's one thing why we're always looking for ways to get more training up north and looking for working with the college. And also we're going to be working with Oshkie. That's another college here in Thunder Bay that we're going to be working with. And yeah, let's see.
That's kind of it for us.
Okay, let me jump in here for a moment. First of all, with things from our listeners. I'm not going in the direct order, but you were just talking about cost. It was asked, is there a cost comparison for training on-site versus training at a more central location? Were there cost savings in moving me up to Pikanchikan as opposed to bringing the students down?
No, go ahead, Erica.
Yeah, I think it would be hard to say because, and it probably wouldn't be much of a cost saving because by the time we brought everything up there, we had to, get the charter flight, and regardless, we still would have bought all of the tools, equipment, and all of that. So just the travel alone, whether we sent the tools up or we brought participants down, it would have probably been about the same cost. So I'm not sure that it would have been a cost difference. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Jonathan?
I think it might have been a little more complicated bringing, the participants down, and the accommodations cost would have been a huge thing outside. And also it needs a good partner. And that's one thing we didn't have in Thunder Bay, where we had a good partner where they could provide like the college dorms. When we did the training, school was on, college and universities were being used. And with carpentry training, we thought about doing it in the summer, but then everybody's already working. The people who are in that trade are working. So we did it in the winter, and I think it was very cold that time. And Jan can probably contest to it. But I wouldn't. The one thing we're going to do moving forward is trying to work more with our local educational institutes here and build that partnerships here. And we have over the years, where I work at Independent First Nations, we've been slowly building partnerships and trying to get our colleges and universities to have a presence in our communities.
There was a question about for the selection process, have you broke it down to different areas of construction, such as electrical or plumbing learnings? And I'll just step in and say I sort of said no to electricity and plumbing because one, it's both are certified trades, and two, that's really becomes very complex. You can't just teach a little bit of how to tie a wire down. There's so much more behind it. So that was kind of beyond the scope of what we could really do. And plumbing, we didn't have the facility to run ducts, run water, make a leak, anything else. And we didn't want to burn down the community center with torches. So there were really physical limitations for going into that. That's why we concentrated on tools as such. I just wanted to make a couple of comments just from me before I get back to the questions here, because speaking into that, one of the things I did at the beginning with the students was I asked them what experience they had with tools. And as Erica mentioned, there were people 45 years old in the group, and a number of them actually worked on construction sites in the summer, at least previously. And so I said, well, which tool did you use? And he said, oh, we used the circular saw. And I said, what training did you get? Oh, and unanimously, the training was, see that guy, do what he's doing. That was their only training. And so with no safety training, no understanding of the tool, they were on sites actually using them, which helped blend into what I was doing with the limited facilities that we had, was to concentrate very strongly on the tool. They ended up knowing all about that tool before we put a battery in. And they knew how to load it, how to discharge it, what every button was for. And even the guys that had used this stuff before said, I didn't know that button existed. I didn't know I could turn it this way. There were things that they thought they knew the tool. And so a little bit of training made it better. The other interesting thing, we had some women involved, and one of the logistical problems with women involved that I think needs to be considered is babysitting, because in this community, those women had babies, and they often missed the class because the babysitter didn't show up. And so that kind of a logistical thing might need to be worked out on the community level to be able to back the students to be able to get there and stick through the whole session, because it's not just a one-day session where they can get it to work. Yeah, those are the other detail was we had enough stuff to put every student at their own workmate and every student with their own set of tools. And I quickly changed that. I insisted that there were 2 students per workmate and 2 students for one set of tools, even though we had the tools and we had the volume to do it. And it changed the whole dynamics, because all of a sudden, instead of just being shy in their corner, barely looking at anything else going on, now they were helping a partner. Now they had to do it and the other guy does it. Now they had to hold the piece for the other guy. So they were really watching and not just saying, well, I'll wait my turn. And I saw that got them into bleeding over to the station next to them. They started to interact more than they did before. And so now it really became more of a group thing. And when we did, I tend to be very expressive, and I would get very excited when they did better than they did yesterday. And it wasn't that they had to do really well, but I also got and jumped on them. I said, yesterday you did better than that. Why can't you make a straight cut today? Well, I'm tired. Well, then what do we do when we're tired? We get our feet placed, we get sit in, we concentrate, and then they made a good cut, just to show them not to float through. But working with them in groups worked much better. The 2 days we managed to go out and work on decks, which was really godsend in a sense, but we weren't really equipped for it. But it really soldered it together. And understanding real apprenticeship, there's always a mix between theory and lab work and going out and actually building something. So real apprentices will do half and half. And somehow we need to find a way to build a bit more. We were in a gym, we had to break down every day. We couldn't build something for a week and have it grow. We had no room for that. But that kind of thing, getting into houses, it's a very touchy situation. Who wants 3 strange kids, 4 strange, 5 strange kids suddenly all over their house? It worked for the outside decks, but some consideration needs to be thought of planning ahead of time, locating simple possible jobs that the students could go do to apply what they learned. So that was missing of it. But that was one of the things I loved working with Jonathan and Erica right from the beginning. They said, one of the things we want you to do is find out what we can do. Go out there and find out how it works and find out what we can do and how we might do it different. And so I wasn't stuck in a preset format that when it didn't work, we didn't know what to do. When we found out that 5 weeks, we had taught within 2 weeks, we had finished the tools because we couldn't go out and practice with them. So we made another group and another group, and that worked very well. So instead of 5 week sessions, we had many 2 week sessions. Just a few things like that. Now, jumping back to your questions, let's see.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the questions here. For the students to train on hand, have utilized actual homes. And then maybe the homeowner could pay for the students to come. The students weren't at a skill level to get paid for what they're doing. They weren't accomplished renovators. And you wouldn't want to be charging somebody for what they might be able to come and help do. Going as a group, fixing a step on the deck, we could do that because I was there right on hands and we had all kinds of manpower. But going in and fixing a kitchen counter, I would be a little more nervous about working in the home. Working on a house that the band had that was empty might be a real possibility. And then we could work through other projects like that.
I think are you answering Jocelyn's question there? Because the one above about the band office, I also want to jump in and say that once we finished the program, we offered the band office all the names of the participants that had gone through it, so that they knew which participants had developed those skills, so that if opportunities came up in the community, they would know who to go to. And so that was another kind of thing at the end that we tacked on.
And what are you thinking of future projects that could reach out to more people?
Jonathan, I'll throw that one to you.
Sorry, I couldn't hear. I got a cold. I can't really hear well.
Well, Jonathan, they're asking one of us, will you come to my area? How do you get this done in my community? Where's the project? What's the possibility of expansion or doing more things with this? And I just emphasize that it's not a full-scale Red Seal apprenticeship. We're not making tradespeople, but it does do a great deal for maybe maintenance and upkeep in the community. But what's the possibilities? Have you looked at anything of spreading out or informing other communities besides this webinar?
And I think one thing that I've been trying to do is just trying to partner with going back to the Thunder Bay College here, Confederation College, but also, I'm happy to share how we developed the program. And I think one thing we learned that it was very hard in logistics. The logistics of Mohawk College and Pecangicum, I don't think I could have picked a farther college to work in the community, as Ontario, Mohawk College is up here, Pecangicum's way up here. And so one thing I would say is that it's best to try to work with your closest college and working with them. And especially training agencies are there. But if those opportunities don't exist, I'll be happy to meet with you and talk with you. But I will say I'm a very busy guy right now, just like the rest of you. But maybe I can put my email here, and then we'll try to best help you. And also we'll share some of the stuff how we developed this program, and even some of how our proposal was. We'll gladly share that with everybody, so that you don't have to start from scratch, and that we'll provide any advice. And we may have some time. I may have some time to come into someone's community, probably not till March, maybe March, even April, just working on a few things with some of the tribal councils. And that's one thing that right now that we're finding is that the more partners that we have in housing, it makes it a lot easier. In our region up here, I've been working with Wendigo First Nation, Matawa, and Shibogama and KO, and we're trying to work together on housing, and we're trying to make sure that we capture the communities and making sure that stuff like this is shared and can be keep on moving forward. And the problem right now is, well, a lot of you know, we're going to be in a federal election this year, so funding applications are going to be slow, and also our bulldozer guy, Ford, he's also handing out money and calling an election. So funding is probably going to be a bit tight for this spring, but we definitely will share with everyone of the presentation. Someone just said, yeah, we'll share the presentation and any applications moving forward.
The one partnership that I would like to see even stronger, having been in the field, is a little more local participation by people who are backing the project. And that comes down to simple things like getting a ride to go to the grocery store. When you get an outsider in there and he doesn't have wheels, and trying to concentrate on the students every day, you need some backing for the individual that you send up there, or if it's more than an individual, to support that. Wonderful support from the outside, because the phones work and we can talk, and Zoom works and all of that stuff. But what we need is on the day-to-day logistics. Sometimes I would have loved to have been able to say, hey, I've got 2 students on the East End. It's too cold to walk to the work. Can somebody pick them up? But that can't be organized from the outside. And so that takes some sort of a small team of people dedicated to making sure this thing functions in the field.
John, if I can say something, I work with Erica and John on the program. And
Marino, glad to see you.
Nice seeing you. Very quick, and to add to what John was saying, I think at this point, what's next steps is kind of understand what the demand of this is and how the logistics will work. Because to John's point about funding and how this works, Erica and John said it a little bit, but cannot emphasize how much of the logistical challenge that it was. The location of the college, I'm not really sure if that's the main aspect. I think if anything is more about the partnership, because let's say that bottom line, it was a lot of calling and everything. It really didn't matter that much, but it depends more because if we're going to do it at the community, it really doesn't matter. John came from all the way from Montreal. Colleges are good, but actually I'm going to wear 2 hats. Colleges also, the professors at the college teach college courses. And sometimes we didn't have that flexibility that the communities need. And actually we had to go to someone like John Eakes that was more flexible. So if anything, is working with people that we know how it is to work there, and has to be flexible. We have to be able to improvise, and sometimes certain aspects of curriculum, certain aspects of teaching might limit what we can do. But what I'm saying here is more about, let's figure out what the demand is, because this requires full-time dedicated people that can help with logistics. Jan, for example, was available, but if we need to have 2 or 3 different sessions of this one, you almost have to have a full-time dedicated person to teach and go around the communities. That cannot be done if we're only training 5 people. That only happens if we are actually gonna try to train more people and having a good program. So I know it's challenging, but I feel that that's the only way that we can make this program kind of continue for a while.
Let me introduce you, Marino. Marino is the director of the project, working at Mohawk College.
Oh,
and a great support. Okay, I haven't been watching the questions here. Yeah, it's most of it just asking to come to their community and come join us. If there anything else that you want to add, Erica or Jonathan?
I don't think so. Thanks for the opportunity to come in and speak about our program and our project. It's a really good project, and I really enjoyed working on it. So, yeah.
Jonathan, I assume you'll be at the First Nations Housing Conference next week. I will be there too. So
Yeah.
you can catch us there to talk more about that. And let me see.
Yeah. I'll just, I just want to say, I'll be at the housing conference, next week. I'll be hanging around. If you see me walking around,
You can't miss him.
I'm
He's
usually the
there.
quiet guy in the
The quiet
background.
bear. That's right. Okay. Well, thanks to both Jonathan Gregoifna and Eric Dali of Mohawk College. Now, the recording of this session will be available on the website tomorrow. That's firstnationhousingconference.com webinars. The next session is Thursday, January 30th at 10 a.m. with Kevin Connor. We'll be talking about practical construction contracts. Don't forget the First Nation Housing Conference, February 4, 5, 6 in Thunder Bay. There's still time to register. And as you leave, there's a link to the exit survey. There it is right now on the screen. Pop that on, snap that with your phone, and please fill out the exit survey to help us design these webinars and make them better. If you have any specific topics you'd like to hear about, let us know. I'm Jan Eeks. Have a great day.